What's going on, everyone? So the Philadelphia 76ers are expected to be buyers on the market. They are trying to try to find any type of trades to upgrade the roster. Problem is that none of it matters if your stars don't play, right? Philly isn't in this position because the roster isn't good enough, right? They're in this position because their stars cannot stay healthy. Joel Embiid is unreliable this season. Paul George, every other day, he can't play more than 2 games straight, and then he's hurt. So much so even Tyrese Maxey has caught the little injury bug from them. It has nothing to do with their the roster on paper is insane. They got depth, they got versatility, they got 3 stars, right? You have what you should need to go win an NBA championship. Now, look, you can always be better. They can find the right move. They can find the right trade. They can, figure something out. I don't even know how they're going to find that. But Daryl Morey, he's a guy that is creative. There was the poll that they do with anonymous GMs and stuff, and all the GMs in the league, they ask all the questions, and they just all said, Daryl Morey can't win at the highest level, right? He's so, he has his beliefs, and he just doesn't sway off of that, which is stack as many stars as possible. It doesn't always work, right? But in his defense, right, that Houston team with Chris Paul and James Harden and stuff like that, if it wasn't for the Kevin Durant Warriors, they probably would have the finals. They probably would have won a championship, right? He's built some pretty solid teams. Philly, again, on paper, Philadelphia on paper should be good enough to win a championship. Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid alone is ridiculous, right? And I've talked about the big 3 thing, because people are oh, big 3s don't work anymore. Of course they do, right? It just depends on the 3. A team like Phoenix is awkward and weird because they got 3 of essentially the same guys, just at different scales, right? Yeah, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal and Devin Booker in particular, those 2 guys just make 0 sense. And you didn't need more offensive firepower. You had Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. You needed more versatility, 3-and-D guys, some size around there. You needed multiple kind of upgraded defensive and role player pieces. Not this, oh, hey, let's go get another top-end scorer. Especially with Bradley Beal and Devin Booker. They're essentially the same player, right? And neither is big enough to really properly play the 3. And neither is a good enough playmaker to properly play the point guard. So it just doesn't make sense. It didn't add up, right? But if you look at the big 3s throughout history, right? Look at the Celtics. You got Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, right? Each one plays different positions. Each one can slot in and play multiple positions, right? You can play KG at the 5, and it makes sense. You can play KG at the 4, and it makes sense. Paul Pierce, you can play at the 4, makes sense. Play at the 3, makes sense, right? Ray Allen, play at the 2, play at the 3, right? You have the versatility, but they also do different things. They all had different skill sets. You look at, KD, Steph, Clay, Draymond, right? That was just a super powerhouse team. But again, Kevin Durant brought different things to them. He's not just a spot-up shooter, right? He could defend. He could defend out on the perimeter at that time. He could get the best. The guy was, elite, one of the top 3 to 5 players in the league at the time, right? You look at LeBron and his big 3s. You had Kyrie, Kevin Love, and LeBron. All 3 play different positions. All 3 you can slot in. You can play LeBron at essentially anywhere, 1 through 5, right? Kevin Love, you can play at the 5, you can play at the 4. Makes sense, right? Kyrie, be your point guard, be your 2 guard, play off ball, play on ball, do a little bit of everything. Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, LeBron James, again, 3 different guys, 3 completely different skill sets, 3 completely different levels. LeBron, play anywhere on the court. Chris Bosh, 4, 5, right? What really unlocked that team was playing Bosh at the 5, right? With Dwayne Wade, got the athleticism, can be 2 through 3, right? That's the difference. You look at the Sixers, same thing. Tyrese Maxey plays the point guard. You play him at the point, play him at the 2. Paul George, you play him at the 3, play him at the 4. Gives you that utility. Still one of the best when healthy, one of the best 2-way guys, if not the best 2-way guy, prototypical guy in the league. The guy is still A1. I'm not talking about overall skill set where he ranks amongst players. I'm talking about just a guy that gets you a stop and gets you a bucket. Not very many, if any, that are better than Paul George when he's on, right? It's a question when he's on, right? Joel Embiid, one of, if not the best players in the league when healthy and playing to his high level. You have the pieces, right? What are you going to trade? What are you going to give up? How are you going to make that work? Especially with all the aprons and stuff. You're not going to get, my point is the Sixers aren't going to be able to get this crazy swing trade that's going to make this huge difference. You're already there. It doesn't matter what you trade for. If your guys can't stay healthy, because they're not going to be able to go. They're not going to go get a Giannis or anything like that, right? They're looking to like kind of upgrade in certain key areas, certain role player guys. Like, sure, you can do that, and I'm not saying you don't do that. Every organization, if the right move is there and it makes sense, you do that. Every organization, if the right idea is there, right? If you can get the right piece, like, hey, this guy's slightly better than this guy, or no, this guy fills more of a need than this guy, right? If you can do that, you do it. However, none of that matters if Paul George and Joel Embiid can't stay healthy. And can you even rely on them come playoff time? I mean, Paul George, you either get Paul George, who by himself can win you a playoff series. I mean, the guy's ridiculous, right? We've seen, playoff P's out there. He's cooking. He's willing to, buckets, right? Like, but then you get pandemic P, where he's just awful. Might as well not even be on the basketball court, right? Just stinking up the joint. Bad shot selections, all that stuff, right? And then Joel Embiid, right? Outside of the injury history, he has a history of just completely disappearing in the playoffs. Completely. Yeah, he by himself could go win you a game, and then the very next game, he'll cost you a game. You're just like, what is happening? You're like, what is going on with this guy, right? So you have these guys. There was a concern with James Harden. It's like, yeah, James Harden by himself could go win you a playoff game, but it also go lose you a playoff game. And we saw it. Joel Embiid didn't miss a game. James Harden by himself essentially won you a playoff game, but then stunk up the place on several. It's just, so you have so many concerns that at the end of the day, if those stars don't show up, if those stars don't do what they're supposed to do and being the stars that they are, and they can't stay healthy, and even if they are healthy, come playoff time, they aren't able to do what they're supposed to do, then nothing. Right? Like, the Sixers also benefit that they're in the Eastern Conference, right? They're terrible, have terrible record, but they're only like 5 games or 5.5 games out of like the 5 seed because the East is just so bad. If they were in the Western Conference, they'd already be out of the play-in, right? Like, their season would be done. But because they're in the East, literally, if they go on like a 6-game win streak, right? If everyone can get healthy and they can get right, and they go on like a 5-6 game win streak, they could easily be right back into the playoff conversation, right back into the playoff picture, and they're in good shape, right? Like, they could be in that 5 seed or 6 seed or something like that, right? Last thing they want to be is a play-in team, because the last thing you want if you're the Sixers is to play more games, right? Like, if you're the Sixers, that's the last thing you want to do. You need to make sure you get into the playoffs so you get that little extra rest, and then now hopefully Joel Embiid and Paul George are healthy enough to kind of carry you, because you're not home court would be nice. It'd be nice if you could have the pieces needed, and be in the position needed to at least in the first round have home court. But with Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid, plus you got all their little skill guys. I think that they're fine. Like, you're not worried about your matchups, right? Like, you're either losing to Boston or you're not. Doesn't really matter, right? Like, you're either like, that's the gold standard right now. Can you beat Boston? I do think if Joel Embiid is Joel Embiid that we know he can be, and Paul George is Paul George we know he can be, yes, I do think that they can. I do think that they could win those games, and I wouldn't be shocked. Like, no one would be shocked if the Sixers were in the finals. No one would be shocked if the Sixers won the finals. Right? Like, I get the idea of trying to improve and get better, and Daryl Morey's always aggressive. It's just his thing. But, like I said, none of it matters. None of it. Unless your stars are healthy and you can count on them and they're reliable. If they're not, then everything else is just redundancy at that point. Right? You could go get, the Celtics could bunk their heads and go, hey, we'll give you Drew Holiday and Derek White for Kyle Lowry and whatever else, right? And it doesn't matter. You're not winning anything. Right? Even if you made Boston worse and you got better and now you're the powerhouse, if your stars don't show up, it doesn't matter. Right? Boston. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, if they don't show up, guess what? They're done. Right? You still need the stars to carry you to the promised land. So I just think everything else is just smoke. I think everything else is just, just talk. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Do you think, Sixers going trying to make a trade means nothing unless their stars show up and answer the bell? Do you think like, no, like you still got to make the moves regardless, and then just trust that process, trust that they'll get back there, do that? Because again, you look at the roster's the same. The roster's fine. It's just they're stars. But however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, either way, I would love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.